Welcome back for another video. What are the top all-time managers doing for Gameweek 30? What's the experts team this week? And for the first time ever, we're going to do a little bit of a behind the scenes of the expert series in this one, for those of you that are interested in that. There were some huge scores and also some disasters in the experts league last week. Jamie McDonald finished on 70 points, which has retained him the top spot in the experts league. He's got an overall rank of 337th in the world. The average expert score was much lower, just 59 points compared to 54 overall. There's 13 experts currently in the top 10k in this series. No wildcards or free hits active this week, and in fact a lot are planning to roll. 75% are taking an extra transfer into the blank game week, which is never a bad idea. Like, you don't want to end up in a situation where you've got one free transfer, you've got 10 players that won't blank, and then some other issues popped up and that forces you into a -4 minimum. 17% making one transfer, 8% making two. More on the blanks and doubles in a minute. So the big question is, do you sell Haaland? 3-0 down after the first leg in the Champions League. It's West Ham away, which is a pretty great fixture for City really, but then the second leg against Real Madrid next week at the Etihad. Well, the number one transfer in this week is João Pedro. However, lower transfer volume obviously means this week the vast majority are planning to hold on to Haaland, and he remains in the experts team. 7% getting João Pedro in, 7% selling Haaland. 76 points in 8 games for João Pedro, the most informed player in the league. 16 more points than anyone else over that run. 14 goal involvements in 8 games. Chelsea are on the same boat though. They're 5-2 down after the first leg of playing away against PSG in the Champions League. They're going to have to go full strength versus PSG for any glimmer of hope to turn it around. However, Newcastle home, not the easiest game either, so we might see full strength regardless from most Champions League teams. It could be the same story for Haaland realistically, but he does have 2 non-penalty goals in 17 games now. His form has deteriorated over the season for sure, though obviously Salah's just never hit form himself, which makes it a really tough call to make that switch. So it's Tottenham home at Anfield for Liverpool, with 5% buying Salah. The mids that are being sold this week are Ndiaye, Rodgers, Enzo, but it is low transfer activity for sure. Tavernier is the joint second most bought player with Salah. He hit the post twice against Brentford last match, 1.47 XGI. It's unbelievable that he came away with just 2 points. He does have Burnley next though, so for 5.3 million he's a really good choice, especially if you've got the likes of Ndiaye, Rodgers, Enzo, Dewsbury Hall, etc. Those sorts of guys don't have much upside these next 2 games, whereas Tavernier definitely does. Munoz is rumoured to be out for 2 weeks, which would annoyingly rule him out for the Leeds home game if it's true. Wait for Glasner's presser before you make a decision on what to do. Wait for something more official, but yeah, it doesn't sound great. Just one expert by Nekatike. Again, we might see some reduced minutes from him. So it was actually a pretty bad week for Prem teams in the Champions League. Liverpool losing to Galatasaray, Newcastle drawing with Barca, Arsenal drawing with Leverkusen, City and Chelsea losing by a 3-goal margin. So it basically adds to the importance of those second legs considerably. It may or may not throw up a few surprises in the Gameweek 30 lineups. So we talked a bit about blanks and doubles in the team selection video, and just to expand on that more, I've got a graphic here from FPL Spaceman. He's a participant in this series and from Solo Analytics. He did a great podcast that I recommend watching on the doubles and blanks. Just to give you a nice summary, these are the fixtures that could become a blank in Gameweek 34 and would have to be moved. Brighton v Chelsea, Arsenal v Newcastle, Burnley v Man City, West Ham v Everton, Bournemouth vs Leeds, and Liverpool vs Palace. So those fixtures in Gameweek 34 will need moving depending on FA Cup results. For example, if Chelsea beat Port Vale, then their game against Brighton has to move. Likewise, if Arsenal beat Southampton, both of those are very likely, like we're talking 94% and 91%. Man City have got about 60% chance of a clash if they beat Liverpool in the quarterfinals. So those top 3 are the likeliest, and therefore the predicted double Gameweek 33 teams are going to be as follows: Brighton, Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, Burnley and Man City. Palace vs West Ham is the Monday night fixture in Gameweek 33. So if West Ham beat Leeds, then that one can't move to midweek in Gameweek 33. So that would be expected to just move a few days further back and remain in Gameweek 34. So no double for West Ham or Everton most likely. If Leeds beat West Ham, then Bournemouth and Leeds could get a double as well, but that one's a little bit of a 50-50 which way it goes there. It could go back into 33 as a double or maybe back into 34 as a single. So long story short, based on the bookies odds and what we know, these are the predicted double Gameweek 33 fixtures. Arsenal would have City away, Newcastle home. Brighton would have Spurs away, Chelsea home. Burnley have had Forest away, Man City home. Chelsea have had Man United home, Brighton away. Man City have Arsenal home, Burnley away. And lastly, Newcastle would have Bournemouth home and Arsenal away. So not the best doublers, but obviously the ideal foundation for a team that week would be triple Arsenal, triple Chelsea, triple Man City. So that's 9 doublers already. Verbruggen looks handy as a bench boost keeper if you need, and perhaps a couple of Newcastle players. It might be sensible to retain 1 or 2 single game week players as well. Like Van Dijk, for example, he's got Fulham home in 32, and then he's got Everton away in 33. And Bruno Fernandes, another example for obvious reasons. So hopefully that helps paint a bit of a better picture there. Just pause and rewind if you need to catch that again. As I say, the FA Cup quarter-finals are before Gameweek 32, so that's when we'll know exactly what's going on, and I'll keep you posted in the content. There was one bench boost active this week, but it was a really late submission, so I didn't get a chance to do the usual manager interview. I've never talked about behind the scenes of the experts videos, but I think some of you might find this quite interesting, so we'll do like a 30-second segment, because it is actually quite a big operation to make this series possible, and a few of you have asked how it's actually done. So every week they all get emailed a web form that's been specifically tailored for this series. So they have a deadline that they have to respond by, and there's also a secret Twitter account. So they've got a few ways to get the information in the link. So the form basically asks for username, captain, the chip they've used if any, like who they're transferring in and out, how many hits, final thoughts, etc. And this then fills up a dashboard that are used for these videos themselves, and it's basically used to identify next game week's player ownership with their transfers factored in, and that results in the experts team. So there you go, for the first time ever, a little bit of a behind the scenes sneak peek there. It is by far the most work compared to other video series on this channel, but I think arguably the most valuable one, so it's well worth it. Anyway, let's move on. Captaincy is a really debatable one this week, isn't it? And it's very split among the top all-time managers. Haaland is top, but only 46%. Bruno second, 38%. Ekitike 10%. Salah 5%. And 1 Semenyo captaincy. In Tottenham's 143-year history, they've never lost 6 games in a row until now. So there is so much pointing towards Liverpool attackers. Though Salah are obviously very tricky to get to without selling Haaland, and although his form has dipped, like Haaland's only got 1 double-digit return since Gameweek 17. We know what he's capable of, and he's got a great record against West Ham. Bruno, on the other hand, he's got 4 double-digit returns in just his last 8 games. They've got the benefit of a midweek rest as well, Man United. You don't have to worry about whether he starts for you, whereas, it's a bit of a question mark with Haaland and Salah. They probably both start, but it is certainly possible that one or both don't. Who are you guys going with? So onto the experts team for Gameweek 30, and if you're enjoying the series, don't forget to subscribe so you can benefit free every week. The team is a 3-5-2. It's Raya, Hill, Gabriel, Van Dijk, Bruno, Wilson, and Mbeumo, Rice, Dango, Thiago and Haaland, and good bench depth as well. It's Dubravka, Alderete, Anderson and Gue. We'll hear from Marco Silva on Friday in his press conference at some point, and he'll be asked about Wilson, I'm sure, who obviously missed Gameweek 29. He also missed their FA Cup game. He could be out, or maybe a big doubt for this one. However, unless he's ruled out for Gameweek 31 as well, then obviously keep hold for that Burnley home fixture in the blank. Haaland's ownership continues to bleed slowly, but still 83% owned in the Experts League. Bruno and Gabriel, joint most owned, 97% for them. And then Dubravka, Thiago, Haaland, Van Dijk, Ekitike, Anderson, Wilson, Rice and Mbeumo. They're the most owned. Semenyo has been a costly one to ignore. He's the one player that's got the negative ownership in the Experts League in terms of comparing their ownership versus overall. That's the thing with the Experts series, by the way. It's not just about copy the team for 38 weeks or copy the transfers. You can make your own picks, and obviously every week there's lots of players they're buying and selling, so it's totally team dependent. Semenyo's been incredible for those of you that have had him. One thing's for certain, if Man City get that double game week 33, then he'll be in basically every wildcard I expect. Next game week is going to be the blank game week special, and the week after will be the wildcard special. And then it will be the bench boost special, I suppose, and then the free hit special. So we've got some big weeks ahead. Make sure you're subscribed. So, on to final thoughts and tips, and this is what the top all-time managers wanted to say to you before Gameweek 30. FPL Vert says, all the talk surrounding Thiago versus Ekitike versus João Pedro has assumed that Haaland is worth keeping. He's quietly scored just 2 non-penalty goals in his last 17 in 2026, and one of those was home to Galatasaray in the Champions League. With a trip to a resurgent West Ham, a blank game week next, a trip to Chelsea after the international break, and home to Arsenal, all sandwiched in between an FA Cup tie home to Liverpool and a potential quarter-final against the free-scoring Bayern Munich, should City somehow turn around a 3-0 first leg defeat, then I think it's time I went back to my Game Week 1 roots with João Pedro. FPL Blue Light says, I enjoyed the Salah cap at 4% effective ownership in my rank, 25k. I'm definitely rolling unless 2 or 3 players get injured in Europe this week. Is Salah captain again as Spurs are conceding goals to right wingers and Salah has pens? El Cholo was the one who's activated his bench boost. Without a wildcard remaining and seemingly only uncertainty ahead of how the doubles and blanks are going to play out, I've decided to use my bench boost in a week where I feel good about all my players playing and good matchups on the bench as well. I have a feeling it will be a blessing not to force players in for a bench boost later in the season, and I can just focus on the best 11 each week. And lastly, Alex Mason says, with West Ham's improved form and City with 2 big Champions League games against Real Madrid, this could be a good time to go against Haaland for captaincy. Spurs look an absolute mess right now under Tudor, so I'm going with Ekitike for captain this week. Salah's also great. Thanks very much for watching. See you soon for the next one.